Hi, hello. So my name is Mariam Zaitun. I'm a trainer at NairoBits, and welcome to today's session, Design 101, where you'll get to learn about uh, introduction to design and graphic design to be specific, and also basic design. So just you introducing yourself to design and me teaching you how to get your way there and learn a few things. So today's session is going to be basically that. And yeah, welcome here to a fun learning session where you'll enjoy yourself and be and make merry and see how fun design can be. So yeah, so let's go straight to our presentation and see what we have for you today. So So as you can see, presentation, so design 101, session 1. So this is the first session. We'll be having several different sessions going forward. And so this is the first session, basically, where we are going just to introduce design for you here. So introduction to design. Okay, so what basically is design, just at a general term. So design is basically what design is. It's making a plan or a blueprint for building a system or a method. So it's just like a process of planning something to something crucial, like planning and then bringing something out that is crucial. So this process, it's applied in product design, it's applied in graphic design, it's applied in engineering, architecture, interior design, and landscape design, and all those types of design. So it's applied. But today we are only going to focus on graphic design. So design has different types of let's say, there's so many different types of design, but today we are only going to focus on graphic design. So graphic design is a discipline. It's an academic discipline and applied arts that involves creating visual communication to convey specific message, so to a particular audience. So graphic design, its main aim is creating visual communication to a particular audience, not everybody, you see. So it's a way of communicating, but visually. Yeah. So that is what basically graphic design is. It is essentially the art of practice of planning and projecting ideas, experiences using visual context. So you see, sometimes you have an idea, but you want to put it here. You can verbally communicate it, but graphic design is visually. How can I see that design? Yeah. So example, I have an idea of creating, let's say, for example, the person who had an idea of creating maybe a laptop. So how did it come visually? So design in English, something of that sort. So next slide. So introduction to design. Again, we are continuing. Designers combine art and technology to communicate ideas through images. So images, text, and layout. So designers, what we designers do, we take text, images, and layout. We put them together, and then we put it out there. So that is how we visually communicate. So designers develop an overall look and feel of various applications. So such as a logo. Logo is an idea that is just, it can be written down. I want a logo that looks like this and this and this. And then you give it to a designer, and then designer bring it out. So branding, creating visual identities for company. Let's say, for example, different companies, example, NairoBits. So how do you know NairoBits exists outside there without you really knowing about it? So things like logo presents NairoBits outside there when we as the NairoBits staff and people of that sort are not there. So logos and brand identities represent. So that's how visually you can tell that this is the company and its products. So that's number one, logos and branding. Number two, how we communicate visually, it's through advertisement and marketing. That is designers, how they communicate visually. So advertisement and marketing materials. So designing brochures, posters, social media graphics, and website banners. So through designing brochures, we all know them. Sometimes you walk around town or anywhere else that people hand you something that you can read and see the visuals. That is brochure. Posters, we all know posters, and social media graphics. So that's why you're always on social media, scrolling, and we communicate through that. So yes, so that's also the designers can transfer their ideas into brochures, posters, and also social media graphics, and many more. They are not limited to that only. Another one is publication. So things like magazines, layout, and newspapers, books also is a way we communicate visually. Websites and user interface design, creating engaging and intuitive digital experiences. That's another one. And also packaging products that is both visually appealing and informative. So you've seen things like boxes of milk, cans, things like that. They have beautiful design. So that is designers communicating and telling you that this is some, let's say, for example, a sweet wrap. This is sweet wrap, and it's appealing to that audience that eats those sweets. Example, if you go to buy milk, there's a packet of milk. It shows you this is a milk, and there's some design of a cow, maybe of milk pouring on things like that. Yeah, so that's packaging. That's designer communicating. And then there's motion graphics, creating animations, things like animations, cartoons, and things like that, and also videos. So you can be a videographer, and also that's a way of designers communicating. And also the last one is things like billboards and wayfinding systems. So yeah. So after knowing all that how designers communicate and all these things are made by designers, so let's go back to knowing the history of design and how design came to be. It is very important so that it can guide us to where we want to be or where we want to go. Or how you as a designer can turn things into something appealing or something that applies to you. So it is important to know history. That even to humans, it is not important to know your history in order for you to make things better. So history of graphic design. While the term graphic design was coined in 1922, the practice of visual communication has roots stretching back to thousands of years. So example, in the prehistoric era, the earliest form of design was seen in cave when let's say, for example, the Stone Age. Yes, the Stone Age, where people used to draw things on the cave where they used to live, communicate. That was their way of communicating. So if you go to different places in the world where they still preserve those kind of historics paintings, you'll find them, cave paintings. Like in Somalia, there's some very, very early cave paintings. So they are there. And then another one, ancient civilization to Middle Ages also. So it continued from the prehistoric era to ancient civilization and Middle Ages. So Egyptian hieroglyphics, if you've done history or if you are a lover of history, Egyptians had the most amazing way of communicating through the hieroglyphics. China also, they started printing on wood blocks. So they would print on a wood and then place it on, let's say, for example, on a paper parchment or on a silk, and then it will print on the paper or the silk. So yeah, China also did that. And also in the Middle Ages, the European, they started creating manuscripts for religious purposes and also the Islamic calligraphy. So and then from there, it continued till the printing revolution. Okay, so the invention of Johannes Gutenberg's movable type printing press in 1950 revolutionized mass printing. So the invention of this printer just blew up things. So printing of things like books, magazine just went. So access of books went up, access of magazine went up, access of newspaper. So people would now start reading more. People would start seeing things more. People would, like, it just went and blew and blew and blew. So that is based a small history of design, and then it continued till right now in the modern era. So I've just given you that brief. So next slide. So we are going to go into graphic design basics, as I said earlier in the beginning. So we are going to go into graphic design basics. So what is, now let's now define graphic design. Graphic design is, so let's see how graphic design is and how you can, and how you are going to, or you can be a graphic designer. So graphic design is guided by principles and elements of design. Just like any other form of design, it is guided by something. Just because you've had graphic design is fun and it's nice and you create amazing things, doesn't mean that you have to go all crazy. It has some rules that needs to be followed. So we are going to go through these rules. So the principles, so they are called the principles of design. So the principles of design are the rules that all designers follow, all graphic designers follow. And then there's elements. Elements are the things that make up design. So the principles of design are building blocks of each layer, layers on top of each other. So they are the building blocks, they are the foundation of creating something incredible, whether you are designing a logo or a website or a custom illustration, or like, so whether you're making a website, a logo, you are doing branding, illustration, all of this, you have to adhere in one or two of these principles. So example, so there are usually 12 principles of design, but today we are just going to look at 7 of them, 7 that are really, like, let's say, for example, mandatory for you to know, and that you will always find yourself applying over and over and over again. So we have space, balance, hierarchy, line, shape, color, and typography. So these are so space, balance, hierarchy, those are principle of design. Line, shape, color, typography, and typography, those are principles. And then yes, those are elements. Line and shape, color, typography, those are elements. So because I've said space, balance, hierarchy, there's emphasis, there's contrast, there's repetition, proportion, movement, and white space. So those are others that are not on this slide. So we are going to go to the first one, that is space. So spacing, for example, in graphic design, spacing in graphic design is the distance around and between design elements of your composition. So let's say, for example, in this image, this space here and this space. So it's basically the space that you leave. So when you are starting a design, when you are given a canvas, you're usually very tempted to fill it up. Like, you want to fill it up to make it all that without thinking of the space. So you need to leave space, like this, like you need to leave space for room for breathing. Yes, the space that you leave, it's very important that that space is there, and that space is left for you to make your design a little bit better. It's like more or less like when you go to a house that is so cluttered, you feel heavy, you feel like there's something that is not working. So that is design applying. And when you go to, let's say, for example, a field that is not mud yet, you feel like it's so much, like basically space applies in everywhere, in everything. So it is very important. Next we go to balance. So balance, so one thing is that you should always remember that every element in your design has weight. Elements are things like these shapes and texts. So every element have weight in a design. So every element has weight. So you should always think that you need to balance these elements. So example, there's symmetrical and asymmetrical type of balance. So symmetrical is usually like, what can I say? Symmetrical is usually in like ni kama unaweza ikata katikati, half like this, like you can divide it into half. Usually that is symmetrical. And then asymmetrical, it is balanced, yes, but it's not exactly half of what you want, but it's still balanced. Yes. So most of us, when we start design, we usually start as symmetrical. So we start with symmetrical, not asymmetrical. We usually start with symmetrical. So when you are putting, let's say, for example, a title, it's bold, text in the middle that is light, and then you put an image, you should know that each and every element that you put in this, let's say, in your design has weight, and you should know how to balance it. You should see like heading should be at the top because it's so big. I want then text follows, and then image there. So that is how it goes. So that is balance. And then next we go to contrast. So contrast is usually like the difference. The difference, basically. That is that's the easiest way I can talk about contrast. It's usually the difference. So the difference of when the text is dark, the background should be light. When the background is light, the text should be the text should be a bit lighter. So if I'm using a black background, my text should be white. If I'm using a white background, my text should be black. That is basic contrast. So contrast is that when they say my design, if you have had a design client before, they tell you that I want that design to pop. I know designers hate that word. I want that design to pop. So usually when somebody tell you I want that design to pop, it's they want it, they mean contrast. They mean contrast. I want it to stand out. I want it to look beautiful. They mean contrast. So you just think of how can I make that contrast look even better. So that is contrast in short. So next time you hear a client tells you that, oh, I want that design to pop, just think of contrast, and then just start working on the contrast of that. So example, change the color, maybe change the color of the text, maybe change the color of the background, maybe make that text bigger, maybe make that text a bit fun. Yes. Next, principle of design. So from balance, we went to contrast. Now we are in repetition. So when you are using, at least when you design, you'll find yourself using at least, let's say, when you're designing, you'll find yourself using at least a font, color, and some shapes. And you'll find yourself limited to at least 2 fonts, maybe 2 colors, and a shape. So each and every time you find yourself doing that, you'll find yourself, the more you go, the more you repeat. The more you go, the more you repeat. The more you go, the more you repeat. And when you repeat, you create something beautiful. So it's not that you are going to, let's say, for example, even if you look at God's creation, if you look like, let's say, for example, a tree, there's a tree outside there. And then the leaf are always with the same pattern. There's no like this pattern is different, this pattern is different, this pattern is different. So there's that repetition. Even with God's creation, there's that repetition. Even if you look at your surrounding right now, there's that repetition with everything. If you look at window grills, there's repetition. If you look at your ceiling, there's repetition. If you look at the tiles in your floor, there's repetition. So that repetition makes the design whole and makes it wholesome. So repetition is usually used. The more you repeat that element or that color, that text, that shape, it makes it work. It makes it beautiful. So that's another element of design. So repetition. So from balance we went to contrast and then repetition. Now we are in another one, proportion. So proportion is the visual size and weight of an element. So the visual size and weight of an element in a composition and how they relate to each other. So if you've mastered balance, you've mastered repetition, you've mastered contrast, you've mastered those three, basically proportion comes automatically. It doesn't need to be forced. It doesn't need to be forced. So once you have repetition locked in, you know how to work with the repetition, you know how to work with the contrast, you know how to work with balance, you know how to work with space. Proportion just locks in automatically. So it doesn't need to really come out of nowhere. It's just it will build in itself. So proportion is the size and weight of an element and how they relate to each other. So balance relate, contrast relate, repetition relate, all of this relate. So you don't have to worry much about proportion. Next, we go to movement. Movement. So movement is basically you as a designer, you have to lead the eye of your audience. You have to lead the eye of your audience from one point to the other. So what is the most important thing that you want your audience to learn about? Let's say, for example, you've created a poster. Let's go back to this. So you've created something like a poster. And then I want the heading to be the first thing my audience see. So example here, spacing. I want my audience to see spacing, and then the text, and then image, and then the address at the bottom of everything. So that is what I want them to see. So you have to lead. You have that liberty to lead your audience to see what you want them to see first, then next. Or even if you want them to see, I want them to see, maybe I'm creating a poster of let's say, for example, concert. There's a show that is coming on, and then there's pricing. And I want them to see the pricing. I want them to see the artists that are going to come in and visit, and perform at the concert. So I want them to see the name, the venue. So you have to lead them. Which one do you want them to see first? And then next, and then next, and then next. So usually the first thing, or the thing that at the center, or the thing at the top usually is seen at first, and then the things at the bottom usually is seen at the last. So when you know about that, you know which one to start with and which one to finish with. Yes, basically. So that's movement. So you have to teach your audience to see what which one to see first, and which one from what to what. And then the last principle of design is white space. So white space is very important. So usually when you start as a designer, you usually want to fill the entire canvas. Unataka tu kujaza kila kitu, unataka kuiweka hapo hivyo. You want to fill that entire space, and you don't want to leave room for breathing. No, just breathe in, breathe out. And you need to, like, let's say, for example, it needs to, you need to leave space. The more space you leave, the beautiful that design is usually, like the minimalist type of design. It gives somebody, like, even like I can breathe in, I can breathe out. I can look at this design and understand. I don't feel overwhelmed with your design. So that is usually about white space. I don't feel overwhelmed with the design. I can look at your design and understand what you're trying to create, and things like that. So basically that is white space and how you can use it, how you can use white space. So when you're designing as a beginner or as somebody that has progressed in design, white space is very important. And the white space, I don't mean a white space, I mean space that is left. It doesn't have to be a white space like that. It means space that is left in that design. Your background can be purple, it can be orange, it can be black, it can be red, but that space that you've left without putting an element of design, that is the white space I am talking about. Yes, so don't get it confused. And then now, basically summing up, we went on the principle of design. We did spacing, balance, contrast, repetition, proportion, movement, and white space. So how do you use them all? So when designing, it's not like a must, like at a must now, the 7 principles, you have to use them all. Yes, they will apply, most of them, but not all. Sometimes you'll find yourself deviating kidogo, but you'll find yourself using a couple of them, most of them, but not all. It's not like now, isn't this one have restricted you and I can't move and I have to like, you see? But you have to use at least some of them. So some absolutely mind-blowing design. So some designer by there ignores them, and their designers come out right. But those are designers that have evolved and they know how to work their way around it. And their designers they'll come out very beautifully. So you can check out some, let's say, for example, posters, book covers, and some design that other people have done, and just get inspired on what people are doing. I hope you are not just designing for yourself. When you're designing for the audience. You're not designing for yourself. You're designing for the audience. Yes. So the most important thing is that you communicate to the target audience, not you. When you're designing something, you're not designing for yourself, you're designing for the target audience. And then most especially designers, we have this problem. We usually focus on design so much that we forget that it's not ours. It is not communicating to us. It is communicating to the audience. You fall in love with their design, and then you forget that, oh my God, this design was not supposed to be mine. So when you are corrected, you feel offended. You feel like this person is insulting me. This person is not insulting you. The only problem that you did is that you fell in love with their design, and you thought that this design was yours. So the design, basically, it's not yours. It is for the audience. So when you are corrected, the person is correcting you is the person that is consuming that design. So kindly adjust, and you will adjust. So basically, that's about today's session. We went through introduction to design. We went to history of design. We introduced ourselves to principles of design and how they are used. And yeah, if you have any question, kindly type down there at the comment section, and then yeah, you'll get the answer. I'll definitely answer you. And yeah, thank you for coming for today's session. It was nice having you here.